Uh, Mr. McKinley, are you ready to resume? And board staff, Assistant Attorney General Eisentraut, and Stanifer, are you ready to resume?
Yes, we are.
All right. Board, Christopher, is Ms. Roberts online? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. I apologize, I failed to ask that the first time around, even though you had told me earlier that she was, so thank you very much. All right, we're now back on the record. It is 11:32. We took about a 12-minute break. At this time, Mr. McKinley, who do you wish to call as your next witness?
Representative Simmons.
All right. Ms. Simmons, you've been called as a witness in your own case. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, before you begin testifying, do you mind if I place you under oath?
No, sir.
All right, so if you please raise your right hand, and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in today's hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let the record reflect that Tarra Simmons has been sworn in. You can put your hand down now. Now, at this point, you'll be asked questions by your counsel, Mr. McKinley. Because this is being recorded and I keep the official record via audio, please answer questions yes or no rather than or yeah or with a head nod, even though you can see all of us clearly and distinctly. To answer yes or no, just because I want to make sure it can be dictated into written format. Now, if at any time you're asked a question you didn't hear, didn't understand, or were confused by, please immediately stop testifying and ask that person to either rephrase or restate their question before you attempt to answer, okay?
Okay, sir.
All right, and then if there's any objections made during the course of your testimony, please immediately stop testifying and let me hear argument on that objection and then rule on it before you resume testifying, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, now at this point, do you have any questions of me before I turn it over to Mr. McKinley?
No, I just, I want to make sure it's okay if I have my notes in front of me. I'm a little nervous. And I also just want to say thank you to everybody for taking time. I know it's really hard right now, especially, and it's a big time commitment. So I really do appreciate everybody giving me a chance.
Okay, now in regard to those notes, are you referencing exhibits or notes to refresh your memory?
No, just notes to make sure I don't forget anything or don't forget to cover something, or I want to make sure that I am able to fully explain everything to all of you. It's a lot.
And these notes were done during the course of your preparation for today's hearing?
Yes, sir.
To refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just to get clarification on that, at this point, Mr. McKinley, you can proceed with your direct examination questioning.
I would object to her having notes in front of her unless we're provided a copy of those notes.
Okay, your response, Mr. McKinley?
We're happy to provide a copy. I need to make a copy, though. I don't have an extra one.
Okay. If there's no objection, then yeah, we can make copies of it. We can adjourn for a moment and have those notes made available that Ms. Simmons may rely on during the course of her testimony. So let's go off the record for a moment. If Mr. McKinley, you don't object to the photocopy of those notes, we'll make a set of copies and provide that to the board staff. Okay, Mr. McKinley?
Okay, we'll do.
Right. Let's go off the record for a moment.
Hearings for the public to testify at without the bills and the bill reports that are written by these staffers. In addition to the nonpartisan staff, there are also Democratic and Republican staffers who work for the party, and they sit over here. Which brings us to the most important part of this room, where the public sits. Now, the public is more than just you and me. It's also agency heads, experts, lobbyists, anyone who has an opinion on the bill at hand. In a normal committee hearing, the committee will hear approximately 3 to 4 bills. The legislature has to post which bills are going to be heard 5 days before they are heard, so the public has enough time to plan their testimony. If you're here in person, you will come to this table when your name is called by the vice chair, and you will have a designated amount of time to give your testimony. Or you can testify virtually, and your face will show up here on these screens. The time frame is determined by the chair. And generally, if there's a lot of people wanting to give testimony, the time that they will have will be shorter. So everything runs smoothly, the legislature uses these handy lights to let you know how much time you have. Green means go, yellow means wrap it up, and red means stop talking. Washington's legislature is incredibly transparent, and all committees are streamed using these cameras right here. So even though there's a myth that says that government happens behind closed doors, you now know that this is not true and that everything is viewable to the public. See you next time. It's House of Origin Cutoff Week, also known as halftime, and the deadline for bills is rapidly approaching. We spoke with longtime lobbyist Eileen Sullivan about what that means.
The bills in the House and the Senate, each chamber that we call them, have to be out.
Gross Substitute House Bill 12
Out meaning voted on
is declared passed
by that certain day, and that day is today.
By March 12th, this session, all bills must be voted off the floor in their House of Origin to stay alive. The clock becomes very important on this cutoff day, and time management is the key. Remember, there are thousands of bills that are introduced, and only a few hundred will make it past this point.
Once a bill passes out of the chamber, the House or the Senate, it's now in the other chamber, and it really does have a much better chance of moving through the whole process. It is voted on by the whole body. That's a huge endorsement.
The House or Senate often leave a controversial bill to the very end, assuming the debate will be extensive. A good way to tell if a bill might have a long debate is by looking at the number of floor amendments proposed on it.
There might be a lot of amendments on a bill because there's a lot of opinions, obviously. Sometimes there's people who want to fix a bill, like, oh, we like this in concept, but we see 5 or 10 things that could be different that we'd like to see changed. Sometimes people use a strategy called loving a bill to death, which means we don't want to say we don't like the bill, so we're just going to offer a bunch of amendments. Sometimes people call it a Christmas tree, so just hang things on the bill, and then it'll die under its own weight. It'll take up a lot of time, people will get upset, the whole deals made could fall apart. That is a strategy behind a lot of amendments.
There are a number of strategies that can be employed when working with this deadline. But as long as the last bill is introduced on the floor by 4:59 p.m. on cutoff day, debate can go on as long as needed. This final bill is lovingly referred to as the 5 o'clock bill.
If it's a big controversy, but like the 5 o'clock bill, they'll probably gavel in, say we're going to do this bill, and then immediately gavel out and go caucus. And at the same time, they're talking to each other, trying to figure out what amendments are we going to offer, what amendments are we going to accept, who's voting with me, who's changed their mind. A lot of conversations.
This year, the 5 o'clock bill in the House had over 120 amendments, which is a lot, most of which were brought forth by the minority party. About half were withdrawn during caucus.
The following amendments are withdrawn.
A handful were deemed out of order.
The amendment is out of order. The point of order is well taken.
More were not adopted after much debate.
The amendment is not adopted.
And a few were engrossed into the final bill that passed out of the House along party lines.
Having received a constitutional majority, engrossed substitute House Bill 1296 is declared passed.
After 2 in the morning. But this was not the only debate that went past midnight this week. Why?
Sometimes they go late because they have no choice. I would say the House, there have just been so many ideas. I've been doing this a long time. I've not seen this many bills. I can't remember the last time. So as I said, they've been on the floor for at least 120 hours since last Monday. So I think that they'll go late because they have no choice. They have so many things, and they have so many committee chairs, right? So if I'm a committee chair and I passed 8 bills out of my committee and then not one of them gets passed off the floor, I'm going to be bothering the speaker saying, hey, come on, And then there's how many committee chairs all asking the speaker, please make sure I need 3 bills out. But another reason to go late is just to wear people down. It's a controversial bill, but we're going to start it at 5, and by 9:30, maybe we don't need that amendment. Maybe we're good, or maybe some people will soften on an issue by then. I mean, some of it is people just wear out.
While they may have been up late, it is only halftime and the session continues. Legislators were up and at 'em, meeting and hearing bills in their committees the following day.
Alfred Pritchard came home from the gold rush in the Yukon Territory, looking for a place to build a house and raise a family. He scoured the shores of Lake Washington and found a beautiful island on the south end of the lake, which was later called Pritchard Island. When the lake was lowered for the new locks at Ballard, it became not an island, but a peninsula. And today, it's one of the most beautiful swimming beaches in our state. I love it there because many of my cousins were raised close by, and we used to go down to Pritchard Island to swim. In the 1950s, my aunt took us to Pritchard Island, and we were going to swim. It was a really hot day, and we found out that the lake was just too polluted. We looked out over the lake, and you could virtually see the pollution in the lake. And it was then when guys like Jim Ellis and others stepped forward to develop something called Forward Thrust and clean up Lake Washington. To those individuals, we'll always be indebted. This is the Bigelow House, just east of the state capitol, just off Butt Inlet here in Olympia, Washington. One of the state's most historic homes. In 1851, long before the Civil War broke out here in the United States, a young Harvard graduate named Daniel Bigelow came to southern Puget Sound. He took a 160-acre claim here just east of the state territorial capital and settled and looked for a bride. You have to wonder what it must have been like to sit in this living room and listen to Susan B. Anthony talking about suffrage and the importance of women's right to vote. When you look around the rooms, you see the necessity of their life. a shotgun over the mantle that was used for protection and for hunting on occasion, with musical instruments all over the house for entertainment, books to read by the firelight.
Yes, Your Honor. Can I state board staff's position?
Just one moment. Mr. McKinley, you're ready to go back on?
Yes.
All right, board staff, you're ready to go back on?
Yes.
Okay. Board members? Okay. All right, we're now back on the record. We took about a 10-minute break to make photocopies of Ms. Simmons' notes. Board staff, you've had an opportunity to review those notes?
Yes, Your Honor.
And does board staff have any objection to Ms. Simmons reviewing those notes as a part of her testimony today?
It depends, Your Honor. I think it depends on how the notes are used under Evidence Rule 612. Our staff's position is that the notes can be used to refresh a witness's recollection to the extent that she can't recall how to answer a specific question. She can refer to the notes, put them down, and then answer the question to the extent that the notes refresh her recollection. But staff's position is she should not be reading from the notes during her testimony or reviewing the notes to see whether her answer is complete.
Okay. Mr. McKinley, your response?
We have no problem complying with the rule.
Okay. All right. Consistent with Evidence Rule 612, I will allow Ms. Simmons to refer to her notes that I believe were taken not contemporaneous with the alleged events that are in question, but were notes taken afterward to refresh her memory. So, Ms. Simmons, you are allowed under Evidence Rule 612 to refer to those notes in order to assist you in refreshing your memory as you testify today, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. At this point, Mr. McKinley, I will go ahead and turn it over to you to proceed with your direct examination questioning of your client, Ms. Simmons. Go ahead.
Representative Simmons, can you describe for the board your legislative career?
Yes, so I was elected in 2020. So I've served for 6 sessions now. I have served in a variety of roles on different committees. I'm currently Deputy Pro Tem Speaker. I started that 2 years ago. I did that because I wanted to grow as a human and a leader in the legislature and learn to work across the aisle and be fair and be a presider. And I really enjoy that and have been able to be pretty successful in building relationships across the aisle because of that, I think. I have passed 21 bills that I've sponsored that have become law on a variety of topics and been able to secure a lot of funding for things that I really care about. Yeah.
Okay, and can you tell me why you decided to run? What was that experience like?
Yeah, I was never politically active in my life. I wasn't actually part of any party. Representative Appleton was my predecessor, and I would come down to Olympia and do advocacy around people who've been incarcerated and trying to find ways for people that have a criminal record to get employment or housing, take care of our fines and fees, and kind of reintegrate into the community. And that's how I got to know, that was my representative at the time, Drew Hansen, who's now my Senate seatmate. And actually he worked on a bill with me when I was an advocate called the New Hope Act. And that bill passed bipartisan support, I think almost unanimously, and that's the only reason I no longer have a felony conviction. And now I have a grandchild that I'll be able to volunteer in his school. And so I was down here doing advocacy. I also went to law school when I got out of prison, and at first I wasn't allowed to take the bar exam, and so I had to fight to the state Supreme Court to become a lawyer. And during that time, Representative Appleton and now Senator Drew Hansen and the Speaker of the House were in the Temple of Justice that day, helping me and supporting me to become a lawyer, and that's when they asked me if I would run for office.
So that's a lot. You were a convicted felon. Let's back up a step. Tell us a bit about your lived experience that led those things to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in really difficult beginnings. I was in foster care and was in jail, in juvenile detention, jail, prison. had a really rough life. And so the fact that I'm even here is really, I'm the first in the nation who's been incarcerated, who became a state representative. And that's why I take this very seriously. But I think that I bring a lot of, something that's missing, that has been missing here. And I'm able to help my colleagues understand the barriers of people who have come from different kinds of system involvement. And I think the different lived experience I bring, but also I've had areas in my life where I've been able to really do well, graduating magna cum laude from law school. Going to becoming a registered nurse. I bring this professional experience too that's very relevant. I just want the board to understand kind of all of that in the context of why I would take my ethical duties so incredibly seriously.
Okay, and you're also a person with a disability, is that correct?
I am, and I know I have complex PTSD from having an ACEs score of 10, adverse childhood experiences, and that is part of the reason I think people don't understand me a lot sometimes, but I just know from my experience, I used to engage in unhealthy behaviors in order to deal with my PTSD, like drug addiction, which I have 15 years clean now. But part of being a person with complex PTSD means understanding my triggers and also my limitations, and then finding healthy and appropriate ways to still succeed in life. And that's why I have a service dog, who is, I think, the first legislative service